What were you guys doing in your life when you were an 11-year-old kid? For me, it was playing with my toys, my beyblades specifically, watching Cartoon Networks all day, or just going berserk while trying to hide from my friends in a hide-and-seek game. Seems pretty fun, right? Well, the person I'm going to tell you about now certainly didn't do any of this in his childhood. Today, we are going to learn about a kid who at a mere age of 11 stood trial for not one but two murders. Yep, you heard me right. And mind you, these murders weren't just any ordinary ones, nor was this child. During all this time, the crimes that I have read about and told you about are much, much different than this one. When the term serial killer is mentioned, the person that comes to our mind is a person in his 30s or 40s. But have you ever heard of a child that is a girl who kills other children? And that too, for mere fun and excitement? I know it seems quite unbelievable and unimaginable, but trust me when I say that all of this actually happened. So come join me as we get into the gory details of the life of an 11-year-old serial killer. Who was Mary Bell? Mary Bell was born on 26th of May, 1957 in Northumberland, England. Her mother, Elizabeth McCricket, was just 17 years old when Mary was born, who, by the way, was her second child. There's no doubt that Mary's life was pretty tough from the moment she was born. Her mother was a prostitute who was often absent from home because of going to Glasgow for work purposes. According to most accounts, Mary's father was a fella named William Bell, but no one's 100% sure as Mart was already a child when her mother married William. With a mother who worked as a prostitute and a father who was a violent and alcoholic criminal, Mary didn't have an ideal childhood. You can understand all the abuse that she must have gone through by one incident narrated by her aunt Isa McCricket. According to her, when Mary was brought to Elizabeth in hospital, she started screaming at the hospital staff, asking them to take the thing away from me. The abuse continued during her childhood as her family repeatedly noticed bruises, marks, and injuries on her body from falling or different household accidents. Most people in the family believed that Elizabeth was deliberately harming her daughter or trying to kill her. The harm kept on increasing over time when one time in the year 1960, she dropped Mary from the first-floor window and on another occasion fed her some sleeping pills. It is also alleged that after some years, her mother also started allowing her own customers to sexually abuse Mary for some extra cash. Making of an abuser. The thing about killers is that some of them kill for fun or sport, while some kill because they just don't know what else to do. They hurt because they are trying to replicate what they themselves had gone through, and this is exactly what happened in the Mary Bell case. All the abuse finally showed its results, and the abused soon became the abuser. Results of the abuse during her childhood years soon started showing when Mary began to exhibit extremely bad temperaments and violent behavior in her school. One time, she even attempted to block the trachea of a young girl with sand in her school. This type of behavior resulted in all children being distant from her, and she started spending most of her time with a girl named Norma Bell, who became her only friend. On Saturday, 11th of May, 1968, a 3-year-old toddler was discovered bleeding close to Scotswood. The boy later informed police that he was playing with Mary and her friend Norma, but he was unsure which girl had actually pushed him. On the same day, parents of 3 small children contacted the police about a complaint that Mary and Norma had tried to strangle their children while they were playing outside. When police questioned them, both girls denied harming the boy. However, on further questioning, Norma admitted that Mary, in fact, tried to strangle the girls. According to her, Mary went to one of the girls and said, "What happens if you choke someone? Do they die?" Then Mary put both hands around the girl's throat and squeezed. The girl started to go purple. I told Mary to stop, but she wouldn't. Then she put her hands around Pauline's throat and she started going purple as well. Another girl, Susan Cornish, came up and Mary did the same thing to her. Local authorities were informed about the incident, but because of being juvenile, both girls were given a mere warning. The first murder. The first murder happened a day before Mary's 11th birthday on 25th of May, 1968. She was in the upstairs bedroom of their derelict house located at 85 St. Margaret's Road. A 4-year-old boy named Martin Brown was with her. Mary was alone with him when she strangled the child to death. His body was discovered at 3:30 p.m. by 3 children. When the body was discovered, there were few spots of blood and some foam coming out of his mouth. After the discovery of his body, a local workman arrived and tried performing CPR. but it was too late as Martin had already died. Ironically, it was Mary, along with her friend Norma, who was 13 at that time, who ran and informed Martin's aunt Rita Finley about the incident. Because of the lack of any visible signs of violence on Martin's body, doctors were unable to determine the cause of death during post-mortem. However, it did help to nullify the investigating officer's theory of poisoning due to ingestion of tablets. The notes. On the 26th of May, the very next day of Martin's murder, both girls sneaked into and then vandalized a nursery in close-by Woodland Crescent. The two damaged the property by peeling off tiles, tearing off some books, and spreading ink and paints all over the building. The next day, when staff went inside the building, they noticed the damage and called the police. Now what happened next was very much crucial in solving the crime of Martin's murder. Police, on checking the nursery, discovered 4 different notes. In all 4 of them, someone had claimed responsibility for Martin's death. The notes read as, "I murder so that I may come back." Another such note stated that, "We did murder Martin Brown, fuck of you, bastard." And a third note just said, "Fuck off, we murder. Watch out, Fanny and faggot." The 4th and final note was the lengthiest and most complex one, saying, "You are mice, why becurse? We murdered Martin go Brown, you beat, look out, there are murders about by Fanny and old faggot, you screws." Unfortunately, the police didn't pay much notice to these notes and dismissed them as a childish prank. The second murder. On the 31st of July, 1968, Brain Howe, a 3-year-old boy, was last seen playing just outside his family home with his brother, their dog, Mary and Norma. In the afternoon, when Brain didn't return home as he usually did, his parents got worried and searched the streets without any success. At 11:10 p.m., a search party discovered Brain's body between 2 large concrete blocks in a nearby place called Tin Lizzie. Now, the details that were noticed next were quite helpful in solving the case. Like when the first policeman appeared on the scene, he observed that there was an attempt made to hide the body, but it was feeble and, well, quite unsuccessful. His lips had turned bluish, and there were many bruises and scratches on his neck. Similarly, a pair of broken scissors was also discovered on the scene. Now, unlike Martin's case, police did conclude many things from Brian's post-mortem. Doctor concluded that Brian had died of strangulation and was dead for 7 to 8 hours before his body was discovered. There were many puncture wounds on his legs which were made just before his death. Some parts of his hair had been cut off from his head, his genitals had been partially mutilated, and an attempt was made to carve AM on his stomach. The lack of great strength in this murder helped the doctor to conclude that the murder was probably done by another child. The investigation. A second murder in a short time span rang a lot of alarm bells, and soon the manhunt began. Almost 100 detectives from all over Northumberland were assigned to the case, and over 1,200 children were questioned. Among these 1,200 children, Mary and Norma were obvious choices for questioning, as many witnesses had mentioned seeing them playing with Brian, but both of them denied seeing him after lunchtime. The next day, Mary was brought in for further questioning, and this time she said that she remembers Brian playing with an 8-year-old local boy who, according to her, was covered in mud and weeds, as if he had been rolling in the field. She also told the officer that she saw the boy hitting Brain, and he had a pair of broken scissors on him. According to her, "I saw him trying to cut a cat's tail off with the scissors, but there was something wrong with them. One leg was broken or bent." This statement was exactly the thing that the police was looking for, as according to Detective Chief Inspector James Dobson, this statement convinced him that Mary was the actual killer, as it was only the police who knew about the pair of broken scissors discovered at the crime scene. To further clear his doubt, the officer soon questioned the mentioned local boy, and he was found to be at Newcastle Airport on the afternoon of the murder. Confessions. On the 4th of August, Norma's parents contacted police saying that their daughter wished to confess something. Chief Dobson arrived at their home and questioned her. She then proceeded to tell police that Mary had in fact taken her to Tin Lizzie and showed her the body. She had also demonstrated the way she had strangled the boy to Norma, and even showed her the razor blade that she used to make marks on his stomach. After this, Norma took police to the crime scene and showed them the hidden blade. The next day, when police visited Mary, she became all defensive and even claimed that the police were trying to brainwash her. On the very same day, Norma was questioned again, and she gave her official statement admitting that she was in fact present at the scene when the murder actually happened. Finally, all the remaining doubts ended when the gray fabric found on Brain's body matched exactly with the woolen dress owned by Mary Bell, and the maroon fibers found were an exact match with Norma's skirt. Charges. After the burial of the dead body on August 7, 1968, both girls were arrested after being charged with the murder of Brian Howe. Dobson, on seeing Mary after the funeral, said, "She stood there laughing and rubbing her hands. I thought, my God, I've got to bring her in. She'll do another one." After the arrest, Mary gave a statement admitting that she was present at the time of murder, but it was actually Norma who killed him. She also admitted to the vandalism incident and writing those 4 notes. The trial begins. Mary and Norma Bell's trial began on 5th of December at Newcastle Assizes. The trial was conducted in front of Justice Ralph Cusack, and both girls pleaded not guilty to the charges. The trial was heavily publicized, with media regularly attending the court hearings and informing the public about gory details of the case. During the trial, the prosecutor told the jury that Bell was obsessed with death, and her purpose of killing was solely the excitement and joy that it gave her. The press soon started referring to Mary as an evil-born child. The case was certainly a quick one, and the jury soon concluded that Mary was guilty of 2 counts of manslaughter. Norma was acquitted as, according to the jury, she was just an unwilling accomplice and had fallen under Mary's bad influence. Release and start of new life. Bell was eventually released from HM Prison Ascombe Grange in May 1980 at the age of 23, after serving almost 11.5 years in custody. She was provided with a new identity in order to protect her from the media, tabloids, and general public. During these years, Mary's identity had been revealed several times by different media outlets, and each time she moved to a different town with a new identity. On the 25th of May, 1984, she gave birth to a baby girl, her only child, who knew nothing about her mother's past until she was 14 years old. At present, no one really knows the current location or identity of Mary Bell or her daughter. We can never be sure why Mary did what she did, but one thing that I'm sure of is that whatever crimes Mary committed were partly because of the things she faced in her own childhood. I'll be back with more haunting stories of real-life crimes committed around us by normal-looking people who live around us. Until then, adios!